Good afternoon. Welcome to Ed's World. I have figured out my video problems. I switched from a recording software that I used for VR that let me do other cool things to using YouTube's proprietary web-based software. And then I had to do about 45 minutes of mute commentary today that you couldn't hear because it wanted to go back and change my microphone from the webcam that I'm talking to you with to the Oculus microphone that wasn't even plugged in. So hopefully you can see me, hopefully you can hear me, and I should be able to verify that in just a bit. If you are watching now, please type something in the chat box if you can. If you're not driving, please. If you're driving, just don't worry about it. But we'll kick this off, and usually what I like to start the show with is just going over some news. And so what the news is for me that's important, we'll just go look right over here, okay? So the news that's always important to me is where my assets are at as far as how they're doing. Are they performing or are they not performing? Well, so we have some assets here. Now, admittedly, I do not own platinum or palladium. However, with any precious metal, it's always been my practice. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not giving any advice. Just telling you what I do. But I hold mine in physicality. I don't get the paper certificates because, again, a paper certificate is just it's nothing. It's like a dollar bill. It's just a representation of value that's being stored and protected somewhere else. Okay, I can protect my own assets and value. Very well trained in doing such. So let's go to this. So gold and silver, 18.15 right now. Gold for a 1 ounce. We have $26.74 for one ounce of silver. Now, to give you an idea of what either one of those looks like, I'm not going to go get any out right now. But this is about the size of an ounce of what it would look like in silver, and pretty close to gold. Gold's going to be smaller, the ounce will, than the silver be, but the silver's about this size. And then if you had, you could probably have a pretty thin ounce of gold, just not quite as thick. That was this size, but it would be small, probably more like a quarter, or maybe a little bit bigger, like $0.50 per ounce of gold. Okay, so there's our gold prices. Traditionally, gold prices have steadily gone up. Typically, with the cost of inflation, they've always been a good hedge against inflation. So a great place to keep your savings or life savings, something like that. Things that you can pass on in your family. If you picked up gold 50 years ago and you had some money to do that with, and you endowed that, that would be a lot of money today. So, a great way to store the wealth, and it has commercial application too. So it's never going to not be desired for more than a few reasons. And that's really all an asset is why is it worth what it's worth? Well, does it have an intrinsic value? Does it have a numismatic value? Does it have a service value? Does it provide a service, right? So those are some of the questions that we ask when we identify things of value or assets, especially those assets that will perform for you over the long haul. Give me a moment. I'm going to see if I can check the microphone. Hello? Yep, it hears me. Okay, good. Got that green on. Okay, so getting into the next bit of news, we'll scroll up here. Crypto prices. Bitcoin, 39,803. Let's just refresh that. It's going to, look at that. We just went up, $400. So 300 something bucks. Bitcoin, 40,256. Its high ever was 41.8. That was a little while ago. So we're just hovering beneath the all-time high. We're just kind of sitting just right there. There was a big setback to the higher 20s. I don't know if it actually dipped below 20. I think it might have hit 29 and a very high 29s in the middle of the night. But I really think it was just right at 30. I mean, a skosh under 30. So that was a little while ago. Now it's back up to 40 grand, obviously. The reason for that, we can look into the graph. Here we go. So we go back 1 month and 1 year. and the 1 year gives you a little bit better indication of when and where people are going. So here we go. We have January 7th is 41.9. We had a reset. What's that lowest bit there? Yeah, it's 30,855. So it was really low, and I think a lot of big players are buying in. We're buying in right there, and are still buying in. And you can see that because they're all buying it, it's getting more expensive. So it's an inevitability with it's an inevitability with a positive wealth structure or something that has a cap. It's only 21 million bitcoins will ever be mined. They haven't all been mined yet. They get awarded. The bitcoins are awarded for performance for crypto miners, and those crypto miners that earn the coin, that unlock the coin in the code, they are paid in coin, and the amount of coin that they're paid in cuts in half until there's no more coin left. So there's going to be a lot of money spent, a lot of resources spent to mine those last few coins. And so those last few coins, there's going to be a point where those last few coins, I'm sure they'll get them. I don't know how it'll look. Will it be really hard? Will it be just a matter of time? I don't know that much about it, but it will end. There will be, all of them will be issued. So all of the issued coinage out of Bitcoin, which is, again, not going to be, there's rumors, but I don't know how substantial those rumors of Bitcoin performing and then splitting, or doing, instead of doing a halvening, a doubling, like the opposite way, like when we quantitatively ease something. If they ease Bitcoin and issue more, then that's going to take all the trust out of it. And there are already so many coins. There's thousands of coins out there right now, and many of them don't have limits. Ethereum, for instance, does not have a limit of coins that can be issued. However, it provides a different service through contracts. So we can read about each one. And for instance, Bitcoin, we can just read it. I'll read it to you. The world's first cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is stored and exchanged securely on the internet through a digital ledger known as blockchain. Bitcoins are divisible into smaller units known as satoshis. Each satoshi is worth 0.7 zeros and a 1 Bitcoin. Okay? Let's hit refresh and see where we're at. 40,426, not bad. Just moved, I think, $50, right? So we'll go over to prices again. We'll take a look at Ether. I don't know why I'm doing it like that. And so Ether 1714. We'll scroll down. We'll do a little bit of a read through about Ether for you. Ethereum is a decentralized computing platform that uses ETH to pay transaction fees, or gas. Developers can use Ethereum to run decentralized applications and issue new crypto assets known as Ethereum tokens. So these decentralized applications aren't finite coins. And it's going to be however many developers are going to join in to make these applications, and then also charge the transaction fees. So it tells you right here, the circulating supply is 114.6 million Ethereum. There's volume of Ethereum is 39.8 billion, and the market cap currently is 196.3 billion. We'll go back to Bitcoin, and it's important to see that. Here we go. So current circulating supply is 18.6 million Bitcoin, and the volume of Bitcoin in the last 24 hours is 70.7 billion, and then the market cap 752.8 billion. So the circulating supply, this is interesting to know. So this is the total number of Bitcoin in current circulation. These are the Bitcoins that have been unlocked and issued as reward. So again, there's only 21 million that will ever be awarded. So what does this tell you? 18.6 out of 21 million are already been grabbed. They've already been grabbed. Good news is that there's still, a few million left, and you can split them down to the Satoshi, right? Okay, so that's good, and you'll see the positive structure of Bitcoin as an antithesis or as a rival to the Federal Reserve debtor system. So we're talking about the Federal Reserve debtor system and why all this stuff matters. Why does Bitcoin hit the number? Why is it 40? Why can you buy a Toyota Tacoma at Toyota Tacoma for $40,000? Right, for one coin, right? Just here's a coin. Here, can I take my truck? Thanks. Okay. So I live in Washington. Tacoma is in Pierce County. However, here's our national debt. So if you look at debt through 2010, if you look at debt through different scales, we can go to this one. That's through 18, 2019. Okay, you can see that our debt is skyrocketing. And that's a better indication. Now, see, what you really need here, and this unfortunate that we don't have it right away, a 2021 one, but this gives you 2016. It doesn't matter. You just do the Joe Verdi thing, right? Look at where it starts. And 1913 is actually when it started, is when we had the Federal Reserve and the IRS implemented by, anyway, we'll go read the book. I think the Monster from Jekyll Island, it's just 1910 or Jekyll Island, Google that, or DuckDuckGo it. But you can see how it skyrockets, and it's actually skyrocketing exponentially. That's because it has interest applied, and the interest owed with the principal will always be greater than the amount of money in the supply. Therefore, requiring the participant to keep borrowing. And that's how we get to where we're at today. We're a participant that has kept borrowing. So as we keep borrowing, you can see on the debt clock pretty easily. Now, maybe you can't from there. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit more. But it's right at 27,880,000,000,000 billion. 27,880,000,000,000. That's a lot. So you take a look at the total federal tax revenue is 3.4 trillion a year, right now, or whatever it is. I mean, plus all the rest. But you got to take a look. What's the GDP to debt? 146.45%. If you were doing an automotive loan, you'd be extremely upside down. Okay, if that was your loan to value ratio, it tells you how upside down you are. Here we go. Now these are interesting statistics and numbers to look at, because when we go take a look at the gold prices, which is $18.15 an ounce, and silver $26 an ounce, and that's what's on the market. These are like these regulated markets, right? And so then we go over and take a look. Well, if you compare it to what actually probably the cost should be with all the money supply that's in the world, you take a look. There's this dollar to silver ratio. This is a ratio back from 1913. It was $2.66. And then today, $4,801 per ounce. Ratio now. Dollar to gold ratio now. 34,583. In 1913, when the Federal Reserve was implemented, it was $28.46. Coming down to the bottom, we have some interesting numbers. We have the total assets. So these are assets divided between national assets and personal assets, so your private assets, your personal private wealth. And so you have the wealth of the people and the wealth of the nation. So household assets are sitting at 128,963,000, right? U.S. total national assets, 157,190,000,000.1. Assets per citizen, total combined 474,000 per citizen. But then you go to the other side of the ledger, and it's going to give you the Social Security liability. That's 21 trillion, 10 billion. And the U.S. unfunded liabilities, Medicare, 32,561,000,000,000. And then the unfunded liability is $159 trillion. So at the end of the balance sheet there, you have 480,000 per citizen. Does that make sense after 108 years? Generations of people living in this country? Does that make sense at all? And what do we spend all our money on in the 20th century? I mean, what did anybody spend their money on in the 21st century? It's weird. What do you spend your money on? Well, let's take a look. So one thing that a lot of people don't understand is oftentimes why people go to war, physical war, not like war in the courtroom, not like war in like proxy and like a game of chess, but like actual physical war where people die and awful, terrible things happen. Well, in the 20th century, was really awful. It was riddled with war. World War I, World War II. These are the wars, the big wars I'm talking about: the Cold War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf War, the Operation Iraqi Freedom War, the global war on terrorism, right? And so it's just war, 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 and war. And other than war that we've spent our money on, globally, collectively, it has also been socialism, where you essentially veil the socialism, but in a negative debtor construct matrix. So the thing about being human is that you're a human being. You're a being, and to be human is to be humane. And nothing is humane about a matrix that's designed to make you a slave and a debtor, and issued, a number that you're, basically stamped with when you're born, that brings you into slavery through your Social Security number and attached to your taxes. So I digress. So anyway, that's why the evil, corrupt system is being broken by Bitcoin. And you'll see I'm not saying this is fact. This is me just talking about what I see when I look at information like this, and what, connect the dots. People are saying you're connecting a lot of dots, right? Well, if you make a lot of dots on a page and you're a kindergartner and you're doing connect the dots, you don't even have to connect the dots to see what the heck it is, or even make a color image of what it should be in your mind. Because as an adult, you're just going to connect all the dots and color darn thing in about 3 minutes, okay? It's not hard. It's really not hard, okay? But you can see, the proof's right there. We have more debt per citizen than assets between the government and the citizens, which means they've stolen half our livelihood. Because really anything that's theirs is ours. So, it should all just be ours. And that's the difference is that old title system where you have Mr. Slave. We'll get into that. Mr. Slave, we can do breakdowns of symbolism that you may never even have considered before that is in our entertainment. Okay, so we can go through all that. But all right. So this is the debt clock. I think we've been staring at the debt clock. If you can't see my TV or if it's got a bad glare, it's usdebtclock.org if you want to pull it up for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to share this stream. While I do that, I'm going to turn on some music for you folks. This is licensed music. I bought it today. I've been having fun kind of getting to know how to do this. All right, we're verified. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave the chat open. I'm just going to leave the chat open right here. I'm going to go ahead and share it. We're going to get into the patent in a little bit, okay? If you're waiting for the patent, I'm going to read the patent soon, okay? I'll let some more people come on to the stream here. Just shared it, been messing around for just, I guess, practicing really while I got everything set up and shared. Oops. guys can't see that. That would be better. Yeah. There we go. All right. Get warm. All right, we're 30 minutes in. I'll just start. What we're going to do today, we already talked about gold and Bitcoin and stuff like that and debt. What we're going to talk about next is some news that, I mean, it's not like news. It is kind of, but just follow along with me here. It's a U.S. patent, and it's for a craft using an inertial mass reduction device, okay? So the abstract, a craft using an inertial mass reduction device comprises of an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonant cavity wall, and microwave emitters. The electrically charged outer resonant cavity wall and the electrically insulated inner resonant cavity wall form a resonant cavity. The microwave emitters create high-frequency electromagnetic waves throughout the resonant cavity, causing the resonant cavity to vibrate in an accelerated mode and create a local polarized vacuum outside the outer resonant cavity wall. Okay, so there's pictures of this. See if I can blow one up here for you. Let's see if you can see this. If you can't really see it that good, I'm sorry. It's really your basic like triangle craft, like what you would think of like a TR3B or whatever it's called is. Okay. And the second, so in a way, it's shaped when you're looking at it. It's shaped like a triangle, but it's also kind of shaped like a diamond when you're looking at it from a different perspective. Okay, so a little bit more about the patent. The patent number is US, that's Uniform Sierra 10144532 Bravo 2, United States. Inventor, Salvatore Cesar Pais. Current assignee, the U.S. Department of the Navy. Worldwide applications, 2016 U.S. Application U.S. 15/141270 events. 2016, April 28th. Application filed by U.S. Department of Navy. Again, so Mr. Pais works for the Navy, and he's in a program where anything it seems to invent is not his. It is the property of the United States. Probably because of all the money and the materials and secrecy and danger, and probably a lot of other things combined. And, this is probably to be expected. He's going to get, he's like Tony Stark, right? Okay, so 2016, April 28th, same day, priority to US 141270. So it's given priority the same day. 2016, 428, same day, assigned to Department of the Navy. 2017, November 2nd. So that gives you an idea. April 28th, 2016, right? And then we're going to go a whole year and a half almost, a little bit more. We're going to go to November 2nd, 2017 is the next step in the patent process. Publication of US 20170313446 Alpha 1. Okay, 2018 and December 4th, a year and a month later. Oh, excuse me, 2 years later. So we're looking at December. December 4th, 2018. 1 year later. Application. Sorry, my eyes are crossing here. The application was granted. So in 2018, December 4th is when the application was issued. It was granted. I mean, that's boggling, right? It's boggling. That's what that TR3B is, surely. Publication of, and so then the publication the same day, December 4th, 2018, publication of US 101-44532 Bravo 2, status active. Adjusted expiration, 2036, September 28th. Information, non-patent citations, 6 cited by legal events, similar documents, priority, and related applications. External link, USPTO assignment, eSpaceNet, global dossier, and discuss. So those are external links. So then we have the description. We'll get into, actually what we'll do is we'll read the claims first. The claims are pretty interesting. Give me just a moment here. So the claims are pretty interesting. And this, before I go into these claims and before, if you didn't understand what the resonant cavity stuff meant, really, I kind of understand it, but I don't. And it says a noble gas, but it doesn't name the noble gas, for instance. And so it's, I think, you know, what they're talking about is creating a vacuum of space or something like that, or some inverse, you know, something to mess with gravity, right? So that means a lot. You know, that means like flying cars. That means spaceports at ports of entry that currently exist. So, you know, in port cities like San Francisco and Seattle and Tacoma and a lot of these other places all around the world, imagine they all had space ports there as well. That'd be pretty cool. And I would imagine that would be 8 airports and spaceports, because, you know, the thing about shipping on the seas is you have container ships. I mean, you can ship containers of I mean, just as much as you really can put on a ship these days, you can ship on a container ship. Well, you can't put that, you know, in the air, right? So if you're going to have air freight, you would imagine that freight in that quantity would go to the places where it's handled, the freight in that quantity. And then the commercial travel system, or the you know, the airline industry and all these other industries would, you know, probably the airstrips in different places like this would accommodate the other end of it, right? Because you'd have shipping and then you'd have transportation. Okay, so claims, 4 claims are made. What is claimed is, : 1, a craft using an inertial mass reduction device comprising, : an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonant cavity wall, the inner resonant cavity wall, and the outer resonant cavity wall forming a resonant cavity, and microwave emitters, such that the microwave emitters create high frequency electromagnetic waves throughout the resonant cavity, causing the outer resonant cavity wall to vibrate in an accelerated mode and create a local polarized vacuum outside the outer resonant cavity wall. 2, the craft of claim 1, wherein the resonant cavity is filled with a noble gas, period. 3, the craft of claim 1, wherein the outer resonant cavity wall is electrically charged. Okay, so there, you know, you ever thought about like the way those Dyson, you know, air conditioners work, where they have the big tower and it's just a thing, and it gets air going one way. And it's interesting to think of how that works. And so it's interesting to think about how bumblebees fly, you know. So you take a look at these resonant cavities and you start to think about, well, you know, what if hollow bones have some sort of gas inside and they're vibrated, and that's what causes the lift? And maybe it's way easier for birds to fly than batting their wings 30,000 times. You know what I mean? So I think there's some as above, so below stuff going on. And I think Dr. Pai really knows the way of the universe. I mean, he's already, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think he figured out like a room temperature superconductor or something like that. Anyway, description, statement of government interest. This is the juicy part. So the invention described herein may be manufactured and used by or for the government of the United States of America for governmental purposes without payment of any royalties thereon or therefore. So he's not getting paid anything. No royalties. It looks like no nothing. I mean, this is given freely. It is interesting that well, to the government, so to speak. So, given freely, we already had that conversation the other day, and given freely, like Bitcoin was given freely to the world. And there's the name Nakamoto, Satoshi. That's the group of people that's believed to have made Bitcoin and given it to the world, or the one person, but no one person has stepped out on the podium to claim it. So this is about as close. He's stepping on the podium to claim it with his name. He did this, and that's amazing. And unfortunately, it doesn't sound like he's going to get paid for it, so long as it's in the hands of the government interest. Okay, so it's interesting to hear government interest. Government charges interest on your earnings by borrowing for your debt. Background. There are 4 known fundamental forces which control matter and therefore control energy. These are the 4 forces that are known as the strong and weak nuclear forces, the electromagnetic force, and the gravitational force. Okay, and they're positioned to be able to the 4 known forces in the hierarchy of forces. The electromagnetic force is positioned to be able to manipulate the other 3 forces. Okay, so what that means is that we have our periodic table of elements and things that have mass, and the first element on the table is hydrogen, and that's mass of 1. Well, and it's got a bunch of zeros or whatever, but mass of 1. Well, light has some mass, but it's not on the periodic table. But Einstein and Eddington proved that it did that it was affected by gravity with lensing the sun, and that was by viewing a star behind the sun that shouldn't have been able to have been viewed. It's interesting. So anyway, as we go along, a stationary electric charge gives rise to an electric or electrostatic field. And while a moving charge generates both an electric and magnetic force, hence the electromagnetic field, additionally, accelerating charge induces electromagnetic radiation in the form of transverse waves, namely light. Okay, mathematically as well as physically. So what does that tell you there? I mean, it's just telling you like almost about the nature of the beginning of the universe in a way. Mathematically as well as physically, electromagnetic field intensity can be represented as the product of electric field strength and magnetic field strength. So the strength of the magnet and the strength of the electricity both go into the factor. Electromagnetic fields act as carriers for both energy and momentum, thus interacting with physical entities at the most fundamental level. And so that's what we're talking about. The most fundamental level is the level of creation, the underpinnings of the universe, all the math on which top everything resides, okay? Or under which everything resides, depending on which way you want to look at it. Or next to, or around, or inside of. If it's some sort of quantum hologram, we'd all be inside, just like beating like a heart, and the whole thing is some giant quantum, 13-dimensional thing folding in on itself all the time, constantly recalculating for every every instance ever, right? But also kind of like a Mandelbrot, self-contained, so an infinite amount of information within a finite boundary, right? So it's kind of interesting to think about those things. Artificially generated high energy electromagnetic fields, such as those generated with a high energy electromagnetic field generator, known as the MFG, interact strongly with the vacuum energy state. The vacuum energy state can be described as an aggregate collective state, comprised of the superposition of all quantum fields fluctuations permeating the entire fabric of space-time. So what that means is it's just creating a spot of equilibrium in the middle, like a vacuum, right? And that's where it has some big implications about where you think God is found. Well, it's each step you get closer to understanding the nature of the universe, just a little bit more of the edge do you peel back on God's true God's true nature. I mean, we wouldn't. I don't know if we ever will truly understand until certain things happen, but or maybe never. But that aside, the vacuum energy state can be described as an aggregate collective state comprised of the superposition of all quantum field fluctuations permeating the entire fabric of spacetime. So what I just said is what I just described. So everything permeating everything all at the same time, okay? He's saying it, I just said it. High energy interaction with the vacuum energy state can give rise to emergent physical phenomenon such as force and matter fields unification. So force and matter fields communication is unification is like binding it around yourself and then putting yourself in this bubble. And so what that it's like filling space with gas and going in it. It's almost like that. And if you watch the show The Expanse on Amazon Prime, then you'll be familiar with the concept where there's a bubble, okay, and a lot of things happen in and out of that bubble. All right. The transfer. Okay, excuse me. According to quantum field theory, the strong interaction between the fields is based on the mechanism of transfer of vibrational energy between the fields. So the transfer of energy further induces local fluctuations in adjacent quantum fields which permeate spacetime. These fields may or may not be electromagnetic in nature. Matter, energy, and spacetime are all emergent constructs which arise out of the fundamental framework that is the vacuum energy state, or God, where all the power of all the universe exists. So, and we get to, like, we were talking last night about Genesis and creation and the Garden of Eden in the Bible. But it's interesting, those last few words that Dr. Pais said here. Again, we're talking about the nature of the universe. And again, like I said last night, I think you don't have to look too much further than to decode this guy to figure out everything else, right? Not figure out everything else, but kind of get an idea, a broad perspective of what the nature of reality is. But so matter, energy, and spacetime are all emergent constructs to which arise out of the fundamental framework that is the vacuum energy state, okay? So we'll go into that now and how that relates to the Bible. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. In. Now, Dr. Pai here just said space-time. Space-time, right? So, in space. Okay, he said space-time, which we'll get to that, but in space. Space is everywhere. Every matter is occupying space, right? And maybe space is occupying matter, right? Like as he said, everything's folding in on each other, right? So space. But as we know space as X, Y, and Z. So we have length, width, and height. Okay? So there's our first trinity. Well, he said matter, energy, and space-time are all emergent. Well, matter, okay? And we know that everything is affected by gravity. Okay? But then we go to the beginning. Time. Okay? Space, matter, and time. Matter, now, these are normal states of matter. We're talking about putting a code through. You know what I mean? We're not talking about everything we've discovered in the last 3 years or 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? So we have a solid, a liquid, and a gas. Okay? That's your second trinity. Beginning, time, past, present, future. Okay? There's your third trinity. And your trinity of trinities equal 1. That 1 is the same trinity that's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Okay? All powerful, all being everywhere, and all knowing. Outside of and responsible for space, time, and matter. Now, it's interesting, we say space and time, like space-time, right? And so if you looked at space-time, maybe that looks like a 2D plane, like a checkered plane, like a chessboard. And the matter that's in the plane is in the plane. It's actually part of the plane. Imagine the whole plane is just matter, okay? But we don't see it that way because we see the matter and we see the rest of the plane. But the gravity in the plane is what brings the matter together. And the movement of the matter in the plane together, which is in this great spiral, which is indicated by many things, and you'll see the Milky Way has a dark hole in the center and a spiral of light around it, right? Same thing. This is what we're drawing almost. And so the whole thing is that if you take one piece of it out, you can't have the other two pieces. So really what that tells you is that if you have no time, then there's no when for matter and space to be. And if you have no matter, then there's nothing for space and time to exist for. And then if you have no space, then where would the matter and the time go? Where would it exist? So that's why when Mr. Pai says matter, energy, and space-time are all emergent constructs which arise out of the fundamental framework that is the energy vacuum state. Okay, that would be down here, the source of all energy of the entire universe. Okay. We can leave that. Here, Steve. Your kitty cat, you can guard that. Okay. Be like little Aslan. Right? Okay. So we'll continue on. Give me just a moment. We'll keep reading this patent. If you're just tuning in, this is patent US 101-445-32 Bravo 2. And you can download the PDF. They'll let you download it. Then they'll show you similar. Okay? All right. Everything that surrounds us, ourselves included, can be described as macroscopic collections of fluctuations, vibrations, and oscillations in quantum mechanical fields. Matter is confined energy, bound within fields, frozen in a quantum of time. Therefore, under certain conditions, such as the coupling of hyperfrequency axial spin with hyperfrequency vibrations of electrically charged systems, the rules and special effects of quantum field behavior also apply to macroscopic physical entities, macroscopic quantum phenomena. Okay, so what that means is that for every action, there can be an equal and opposite reaction. It just might take time for there to be one, right? So we're talking about as above, so below. In space, we have this thing that's insane that we're talking about right now. We're talking about the existence, the true existence in the U.S. Navy Department patent from Dr. Pai for flying spacecraft with over unity engines. Okay? We'll keep going. And so what that means is that if you can reverse engineer the fabric, the triumvirate of the existence and figure out those three things and what tickles those things, what agitates those things. That's where we're talking about vibration. Is that when those things get tickled and agitated, they start learning more and more and more. So, like for instance, there's the Large Hadron Super Collider, and that's where they explode the tiniest of particles that we can manipulate together to find new smaller particles. Okay, and in those violent explosions, we find things like the Higgs. Moreover, the coupling of hyperfrequency gyrational, so axial rotation, and hyperfrequency vibrational electrodynamics. So that's why UFOs are thought to spin, but they spin so fast you can't see them spinning so fast. That's one of the interesting things about it, and or something inside it spinning. But that's just all conjecture, right? But they're telling you how it does. This is how it is, right? So we're learning how it is right now, for real, right? So the hyperfrequency vibrational electrodynamics is conducive to a possible physical breakthrough in the utilization of the macroscopic quantum fluctuations vacuum plasma field. So quantum vacuum plasma. There's your energy source, okay? That's what's going to come out as an energy source or sink, which is an induced physical phenomenon. So the thing is they're inducing this phenomenon by starting up an engine, essentially. The quantum vacuum plasma, QVP, is the electric glue of our plasma universe. The Casimir effect, the Lamb shift, and spontaneous emission are specific confirmations of the existence of QVP, quantum vacuum plasma. And the Casimir effect, I'll pull it up here so you guys can see it. Maybe you can see that on the video, maybe not. Kind of. All right. So in the inner two walls, they're pushing away from each other, in fact. So you have the force, the vacuum fluctuations on the outside, and then you have the Casimir plates, and then they push away from each other. So if you could think about, like, you have two magnets, right? And you have a face that's negatively charged this way and a face that's negatively charged this way, and you're trying to push them together and they don't want to. It's like that. Okay. It is important to note that in regions where the electromagnetic fields are strongest, the more potent the interactions with the QVP. Therefore, the higher the induced energy density of the QVP particles which spring into existence, which would be from, it's called the Dirac sea of electrons and positrons. So that's, again, they're talking about this quantum, this vacuum, this limitless vacuum of energy. These QVP particles may augment the obtained energy levels of the HEEMFG system, in that energy flux amplification may be induced. So what that means is that they made their over unity machine. Okay, over unity machine is different than a perpetual motion machine, because perpetual motion violates the laws of thermodynamics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like if I drop this little clay eyeball that I made, right? And something's going to happen. It's going to fall and it's going to roll, and entropy is going to take over, and it's come to a rest. And its heat that it had in my hand it's going to lose, and it's going to come to at rest with the thermostat on my wall. The ambient temperature came to rest, right? Well, a perpetual motion machine doesn't exist because there's friction. You can't ever avoid it. And then anything that energy you put into its motion is reduced on the outside end. So there is no such thing as a perpetual motion machine. That would be, the only thing would be God, I'd imagine, one of God's powers, right? But I digress. And then, so what you do with an over unity machine is that you have a source of fuel. Now, this isn't violating the laws of thermodynamics because they found a new gas tank, right? They're not creating something from nothing. They're finding something that already exists. So as above, so below. We found oil under the ground. We found resources in space, right? Now, in our own space, above and below, we can find new resources, right? So in the actual space, when Dr. Pais is a genius, he knows this and found resources in a different space beneath our own reality, okay? Beneath our own reality, under our feet, miles down. It's the same concept, okay? And we'll keep going here, okay? So that anyway, energy flux amplification may be induced. It is possible to reduce the inertial mass and hence the gravitational mass of a system or object in motion by an abrupt perturbation of the nonlinear background of local space-time. So the local vacuum energy state, that's here, okay? Equivalent to an accelerated excursion far from thermodynamic equilibrium, analogous with symmetry breaking induced by abrupt changes of the state phase transitions, okay? So at the basic level, we're interrupting, like how cannabinoids may make you high. They interrupt your neurotransmitters at the cellular level, okay? And at that level, or at the electrical level, and at the cellular level with the electrics, and all the chemical compounds that your brain creates, like DMT and other things, right? So it messes with your receptors. Well, essentially, it's the same thing. We're going down a level. We're messing with the receptors of the universe by agitating it, by vibrating them, okay? All right, the physical mechanism which drives this diminution in inertial mass is based on the negative pressure. Okay, I'm imagining that's where that noble gas comes in, and maybe we had to have some of this noble gas. Now you'll see this is where the conspiracy comes in, not conspiracy but theory, because con is without theory. This isn't without theory. This is co-theory, right? This is co or with theory, right? So we go to the Large Hadron Super Collider. Okay, and that's the LHC. All right, it's the world's largest particle collider. It's called CERN, or is what it's known as, and I think it's in like 3 countries. Its location. I think it goes through a map's pretty big. Anyway, it's in Europe, and it's interesting. I think we'll find out here. We'll do this is important. Large Hadron Super Collider. We'll go to the home page. Let's see how that looks. Let's see what the home page tells us. Don't make it hard. Where is LHC located? Oh, because it's complicated. Okay, it lies in a tunnel 17 miles in circumference and as deep as 574 feet beneath the France-Switzerland border near Geneva. Okay, first collisions were achieved in 2010. Okay, France and Switzerland. Now, Switzerland and the Swiss Guard. Understand this. So, and then you have Royal Gas. So the interesting thing about Royal Gas, like if you've seen, now this is what they have shown us in media what this is supposed to look like, and this is from the movie Angels and Demons, characterized after the Dan Brown novels. Now, this is a piece of antimatter that was collected from the Large Hadron Collider. In fact, we do collect antimatter out of there. Okay, and antimatter is the most expensive resource right now, and we were talking about $40,000 bitcoins and $1,800 gold and $2,200 palladium. Well, let's just go see how much antimatter is worth per gram. Antimatter cost per gram. $62.5 trillion per gram. That's insane. That's insane. It's crazy. So there's that representation. I like this representation because it's air. Light isn't gas. It's not on the periodic table of elements, and it's antimatter and light. This looks like light. It looks bright. It doesn't look dark. It doesn't look like antimatter. It looks like light. But it looks like, they know if it comes into contact with matter from here, it's going to explode violently, and that's why it would take out, and probably something like that, like whatever size that is, one gram or whatever it is. Or even one atom is extremely volatile. You could probably power the entire world for a long time on just a little bit of this stuff. So anyway, that's what I was saying over Unity machines. So maybe, now this is what I'm thinking that took so long and why this is all coming together, is because maybe they had to have something to jumpstart it, right? You can't, how do you get there without being there? Right? How do you put the gas in the tank So like when you go out to your car, right? And this is the thermodynamics again. When you go out to your car, that thing has to have all the spark plugs, the computer, the coolant, the lubricant, all the stuff, the windshield wiper fluid, and then the fuel, right? So you're not going to go drive your car to the gas station 50 miles away if your car is empty. Well, think about that. We built an empty car, or we have empty cars, or empty race cars, right? Or empty Corvettes, right? Space Corvettes, right? Maybe some of these 9 recoveries, archaeological recoveries, were out of gas, or the gas was no longer, who knows, able to be safely harnessed, or they didn't know how to start it back up again. And so you kind of have to start from the beginning and they reverse engineer a lot of things. And so in having a few different types of engine, you have these typical rocket propelled engines. Now, if you want to think about a really crazy engine, is maybe a nuclear ramjet engine, if you want to look into nuclear ramjet. And then you can also look into these over unity engines that use antimatter. Now, what this looks like to me is Mr. Stark's chest piece, just in a much bigger form. Because as generations of science go on, instead of grabbing a piece, maybe they'll be able to grab smaller pieces and make smaller containers, to the point where you could have one thing as the container. Maybe there's just too much power in 1 gram, and that's all you can collect. Well, if that's the case, you have a place where you push that power through a hydroelectric dam sort of thing. You're gonna cut up the pieces of power so they're manageable and they don't blow every circuit in the world, right? So essentially, if you had a machine that could open itself to that extremely small level of energy in its broadcast, you might have machines that just never die. And in fact, how that relates to the human body, because the human body is an electrical system, is interesting. If you could somehow harness the power of that light and keep yourself going for a long time, I think that might be kind of the intent, or the way things are going. If you've ever seen Galaxy Express 999, that's like my favorite anime of all time. It's a really good one. So polarization of the local vacuum is analogous to manipulation or modification of the local space-time topological lattice energy density. So I was talking about a 13-dimensional thing that's fluctuating back and forth. That's what he's talking about. And so when he's talking about this topological lattice energy density, you can find the way this looks in geometry. Now, supposedly there's a 3D periodic table of elements that's perfect in its construction, and I believe it looks like a pyramid if you want to find it. And then also pyramids, like just like blocks. And they all kind of stack on top of each other, and it's just it's interesting. But maybe we can find a 3D periodic table. Yeah, these are all junk. These are not the one I saw. The one I saw, everything was a tetrahedron, or a inside a tetrahedron inside another form of a tetrahedron. And the honeycomb shape is just a 6 sides on that one. Yeah, these aren't that good. Not really looking at those. It's a waste of time. I don't think I'll find it. But it was really cool looking, and I saw it once. I should have saved it because it was pretty genius. Anyway, the result is extreme speeds can be achieved. So what that means is that when you create this gas vacuum, and this is actually shown in Family Guy. And let's the Orville. Okay, in this show, the Orville, and I'll try to find it for you guys. In this show, the Orville, he takes the ship. They take the ship to the cusp or to the ledge, the knowledge. They know the ledge, right? They take and they view, they spectacle the second dimension. Orville, second dimension. Pretty cool. But it's all kind of like programming. They want you to know what's coming next, and they want your brain to know what's coming next. Then when you observe this, you're observing the story that's being told by the words that are coming out of the mouths. But what you may not be seeing is the story that's being told, that's being shown to you. And the stories are often all the same. The lessons. There's not that many lessons to be learned, really, as far as how to be. But the way it looks is going to be dressed differently, right? So here, I'll pull this up. This is what it looked like when the Orville, so I can blow this up even more. The Orville looked like when it was viewing this second dimension. And the cool thing about the second dimension is where all knowledge, this knowledge exists at all the same time, and we're all you see this light shining through, this even brighter light, and it's coming from that first dimension where we're talking about this like positrons and neutrons are coming from. Protons and positrons are coming from, and like photons and protons are coming from up, right? And so this second layer is dividing it all up. And it's parsing it out, all the light. And what it's doing is it's creating the matrix as above and so below, right? So there's this light is going to be refracted into the second dimension. So they can't actually, they're floating in between the third dimension, because up above them in the darkness is space-time. That's the space. And then down below them is the third dimension, and then down below them is the second dimension. And what they've done is they put themselves in their own vacuum state of locality between the two dimensions. And since the information, we know how quantum entanglement works, that's how the second dimension works, where information is transferred instantly all the time. There is no time in the second dimension. It's just energy and maybe matter, but maybe not. Maybe it's just energy, structured energy through a lattice, right? So the lattice maker is who's the God of the universe is, right? So and the source of all light. So the source of all light, the lattice maker, the harp player who's strumming the strings of the universe, whatever you want to call it, creating the music that is life. If you were to view it, this is what you would look. This was theoretically what Seth MacFarlane's idea, or whoever he consulted. Now, if you need consulting on what things look like, please come to me, and you can pay me to think about what this stuff looks like in the real life. Because we talked about the Garden of Eden, and I'm going to get back to that. I had a really bad time with the video last night and a hard time with audio earlier today. I'm sorry about that. But hopefully this makes up for it. Hopefully talking about how this craft works and how it operates will show you, give an idea of how this vacuum state looks in reality from your perception. Okay. And again, it's we theorize what this looks like. But we'll continue. So we just mentioned, as a result, extreme speeds can be achieved. Well, the reason why is this extreme speeds can be achieved is because when we pop down, you'll see this in a lot of stuff right now, like Marvel Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War, right? And how Ant-Man's suit works, right? So what we do is we go down into the second dimension and cross where we need to go to the code that's projecting where we want to be. So all we have to think about is where we want to be when we're in the second dimension, and then we have to slow down the craft in our vacuum state, and then devibrate and materialize back into the third dimension where you want to be now, right? So when you talk about dematerializing, it's just creating this vacuum state around yourself by agitating the laws of reality. It sounds like all at the same time with a piece of fuel that you need to have already, right? And so you can fire up the craft that you dug out of the ground or fell out of the sky or made from retro engineering that craft so that you can jumpstart it and then go do this, right? And so this TR3B, the triangle craft that everybody sees, or the wedge craft that everybody sees, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why you feel good vibrations is because good vibrations or high vibrations create a heart-shaped pattern. And actually your heart is the source of your electromagnetic energy, actually. In fact, your magnetic energy comes from your heart. And your heart pumps a lot the same way. It's pretty interesting. And when you go back to Eden, the four rivers, and again, as above, so below, it pumps into the heart of civilization. So they want to give you so much levels to this that you start seeing it. But so here's the level, you're in between, you're saying, wow, look at the second dimension, and then you're like, wow, look at the third dimension, you're looking into space, and then you're looking down, and you're just like that. And then you get this look right here, looking up into space, and you're looking down like that. Where have you seen this before? Right? Okay. If you haven't seen that before, I will show you where that's from. But we're identifying. It's telling you, that there is a good and a bad, a right and a wrong, a left and a right, and that everything that is opposite is by definition the same, because we're just contrast. We're just an infinite sea of color and light broken down and vibrating, like he said, in different ways. And then our consciousness is just experiencing it from our particular viewpoint. So how that works out, how your consciousness comes into your body is interesting. I mean, it's a really interesting question. But I digress. We'll keep going. If we can engineer the structure of the local quantum vacuum state, we can engineer the fabric of our reality at the most fundamental level, thus affecting a physical system's inertial and gravitational properties. This realization would greatly advance the fields of aerospace propulsion and power generation. So at the beginning, I said we'd have flying cars and we'd have over-unity machines. You can only have a flying car like this unless you have an over-unity machine, because otherwise you're just burning stuff. Now, burning stuff is interesting when you correlate that to how things are consumed or produced. So we went back to talking about the Garden of Eden, and what God said is to Adam was, of all the fruit you may eat for meat. So he said you can't eat meat. You're eating produce, right? Because you are a producer, or in other words, a slave, right? And so when you go to the Cain and Abel story, well, why did that all happen? Well, God didn't slight him, but he favored the meat over the fruit and the vegetables, right? And so obviously, if you're a grown man, you want a savory steak, right? Well, if you have two humans bringing you food, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that savory steak's great. Give me that. Oh yeah, thanks for the vegetables, man. Good side. I'll have, I'll steam them up, right? I love vegetables, by the way, but I mean, you could see that, right? You can see that disproportionality in the reaction of the participants in the story, right? And that goes back to the garden again about the fruit. You eat the fruit for me because the meat's for me, right? And so it's interesting, and so you keep going, and so with all that, how that looks is interesting on how everything is the same above and below. So like I was talking about consumers and producers. So the way we've been is consumer and negative debtor, right? And so now that we have something that changes our real reality, we have a few some things. We have Bitcoin, now we have an over Unity machine, and we have a spacecraft that can create its own locality and move between space and time. So what that really thinks to me is ultimate freedom for everyone to explore the galaxy, so long as they have a spacecraft that they can buy, right? Or everywhere, anywhere. Okay. The physical equation, which describes the maximum intensity achieved by the high energy electromagnetic field generator HEEMFG system, is described by the magnitude of the Poynting vector, which in non-relativistic form, accounting for all three modes of motion, can be written as, and you can find the equation there, equation 1. Okay, I'm not going to read what all the things in the equation mean. Okay, if you consider only rotation given a disk configuration, 50,000 coulombs of squared disk spinning, actually rotating, radius 2 meters, and an angular speed of 30,000 RPM, and generate an electromagnetic field where the intensity is x to the negative power, is the rate of energy flow per unit area or energy flux value on the order of 10 to the 24 watts per meter squared. So what they're saying is that when you open it, the 10 to the 24th watts per meter squared. So a square meter, 10 to the 24th watts, a square meter of space. That's what you would need to operate these crafts and everything else and have free energy forever. Okay. Okay, if you couple the high frequency of rotation with vibration, so harmonic oscillation, okay, rotation, vibration, harmonic oscillation, frequencies in the range of 10 to the 9th and 10 to the 18th hertz and above, we can obtain S intensity values in the range of 10 to the 24th to 10 to the 28th watts per meter squared and beyond. So that's your over Unity machine. These extremely high EM fields, electromagnetic field intensity values, emphasize the novelty of this concept, especially suited for the design of energy generation machinery with power output levels much higher than those currently available. For the case of an accelerating angular frequency of vibration, neglecting rotation and curvilinear translation, equation 1 becomes and note equation 2, where the operational time for which the charge electrical system is accelerating vibration. So I don't know really how to interpret that. Close inspection of equation 2 results in an important realization, namely strong local interaction with high energetics of the quantum vacuum field's fluctuations Superposition macroscopic vacuum energy state is possible in a laboratory environment by high application of frequency gyration, axial spin, and or high frequency vibration of minimally charged objects under order of unity surface charge density. I think he's talking about like maybe is he talking about his room temperature superconductor that he invented? In an acceleration mode. In this matter, a high degree of local vacuum energy polarization can be achieved. Because if you can get a room temperature superconductor, So to illustrate this fact, considering a high-end microwave frequency on the order of 10 to 11th hertz, the surface charge density on the order of an operation. I don't understand any of this stuff. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of it. Time on the order of the inverse of the vibrational amplitude, we obtain an energy flux. So maybe that's what looks like a heart. This exceptionally high power intensity induces a pair production avalanche, thereby ensuring complete polarization of the local vacuum state. So it sounds like wherever you point your heart is where you're going to be. Because what's happening is you're falling into the space in front of you. So your tip is like this. And then it's wrapping around and back behind of you and coming back together. So as you fall through in between space-time, in this local vacuum, you are racing through the fabric looking like a heart, okay, like a spade. Okay. Local polarization of the vacuum in the close proximity of the craft, equipped with the HE, the HE-MFG system, would have the effect of cohering the highly energetic and random quantum vacuum field's fluctuations with virtually block the path of an accelerating craft in such a manner that the resulting negative pressure of the polarized vacuum allows less labored motion through it, like through water. Spontaneous electron-positron pair production out of the vacuum is a strong indicator of vacuum polarization being achieved. Julian Schwinger, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, gives a value of the electric field, E, capital, on the order of 10 to the 18th V over M for this phenomenon to take place. The mass production rate, dm over dt, parentheses, and then pp, or of particle-antiparticle pairs, so those together can be expressed in terms of the S max, or the energy flux. Namely, then it gives you equation 3. So then they say, if we consider the boundary condition in the close proximity of the craft, or the energy density of the artificially generated electromagnetic fields, okay, we should probably pull this guy out, or the electromagnetic fields, whoa, where did I go? Equals the local energy density of the polarized vacuum, caused in part by the local 0-point vacuum fluctuations on the order of 10 to the negative 15th joules per centimeters cubed, and in part by the artificial EM field interacting with the local vacuum energy state. Then they write equation 4. Okay, so then it just goes down, and then it's long, man. But a recent paper by the inventor published in the International Journal of Space Science and Engineering considers the conditional possibility of supraluminal craft propulsion in a special relativity framework. It is observed that under the certain physical conditions, the singularity expressed by the relativistic stretch factor gamma as the craft's speed approaches the speed of light is no longer present in the physical picture. That's because you created a vacuum. This involves the instantaneous removal of energy mass from the system or craft when the craft's speed reaches the over unity point, right? Or V equals C over 2. I call it that. Whatever it goes past that state, you disappear, dematerialize. The author discusses the possibility of using exotic matter. Okay, so that's why we're talking about where'd it go? This bad boy, that man, Jana. Exotic matter. Negative mass, negative energy density. The antimatter to bring about this effect. So again, we need to have gas in the tank to do it. This may not have to be the only alternative. The artificial generation of gravity waves in the locality of the craft can result in energy mass removal. Gravity waves are propagating fluctuations in gravitational fields whose amplitude and frequency are a function of the motion of the masses involved. Moreover, it is feasible. So maybe they can start it up with like a nuclear reactor or something. Maybe that was like maybe some old school 50s UFO technology. Maybe all those nuclear explosions that they've bombed was trying to get all these crafts to work. I mean, if you drop 2 bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and those are the only 2 that were ever dropped in war, and there's thousands of nuclear explosions after that. I mean, why do you need to keep testing the same stupid bomb over and over? Maybe they were trying to get this craft perfected, and they kept on bombing them in the same stinking place because they're falling out of the sky, or they're malfunctioning, or the ones that are making. I mean, maybe that's where all our money went. Maybe this missing trillions of dollars went to nerfing 2,000 spacecrafts that we tried to make. Who knows? You know what I mean? We don't know. This is a black budget to spend on. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to skip down to the summary. The present invention is directed to a craft using an inertial mass reduction device. The craft includes an inner resonant cavity wall, an outer resonant cavity wall, and microwave emitters. The outer resonant cavity wall and the inner resonant cavity wall form a resonant cavity. The microwave emitters create high-frequency electromagnetic waves through the resonant cavity, causing the outer resonant cavity wall to vibrate in accelerated mode and create a local polarized vacuum inside the outer resonant cavity wall. It is a feature of the present invention to provide a craft using an internal mass reduction device that can travel at extreme speeds. Drawings, descriptions are all available at the website. There's 2 citations. There's a previous publication date assigned to Andrew Curie, and that is related to rotating self-excited asymmetric radio frequency resonant cavity turbine for energy storage and power production. And then there's a family-to-family citations. This is the United States of America as represented by the Secretary of the Navy. This is 2015, both in 2015. Electromagnetic field generator and method to generate an electromagnetic field. So it's kind of funny, Rick just kind of gets drunk and he goes to the arcade, the Galactic Arcade, where he gets to mess around, and Morty gets to play as someone else for 50 years as a carpet salesman and then come out 19 minutes later. That's kind of like also in the Orville, where they encounter another universe and their universes overlap. And so they send their robot down to help the civilization, and they're transiting out of and in each other, and they figured out that the robot would be gone from their ship for 17 minutes, but he would be on the planet for like 750 years or something like that. And so anyway, they flew back when the transit came again. Then 17 minutes later, they made this transit through that part of that other universe, and then he came back. They flew back in their own spaceship. So anyway, I ruined the episode for you. Sorry. You'll get a lot of that as we're talking. Just spoiler alerts, big time. I mean, spoiler alerts of all time. I mean, we can call it that. But that's a spoiler alert. We got to talk about this stuff because I can't really have you imagine it in your mind the way I can imagine it in my mind until I've shown you the symbolism and the illustration. Not all of it's symbolism, but the illustration of these ideas that are to be or maybe already fact. So I'm going to sum it up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to check those Bitcoin prices and see where we're at. So we did drop a little bit. That's kind of normal going to the evening. Usually it's low to the evening, higher during the afternoon. So maybe people are buying right now. It's in the middle of the afternoon. Maybe it's 7 o'clock on the Eastern Coast. I mean, the whole thing about Bitcoin is crazy is because it doesn't sleep, and it's worldwide. So, it's you can't really tie the stuff like stocks to it, like, that sort of thing. Okay. U.S. national debt. Where did it start? Oh, well, we're up a few more hundreds of millions, I'm sure, or at least a few dozen. We're still at 27 trillion 880 billion and going down into more debt. Okay, so sorry to end on a bad note, but our gold's doing good. And maybe it's a good time to buy a little bit weekly. 25 bucks here or there, get some Satoshi at least. That's people. I can't give advice, so I just say, if you want it and you see the value in it, then spend what you can afford and desire. That's all I can say. Is just do the research yourself and take a look yourself and look for correlating evidence and correlating fact and make your decisions based on your good knowledge and your good hard efforts and work, and rely on others who you find to be trustworthy. And if you don't find my information trustworthy for your situation, then absolutely all I recommend for you to do is to use your best judgment, use the scientific method, have fun. There's no reason to do any of this if you can't have fun. So that's the whole that's my whole aim from it. I want to have fun and learn at the same time and make it exciting. So on that note, tonight I'm going to kind of go back through and display a little bit the pineapple, the apple from the Garden of Eden given by the serpent, and then also we'll kind of do a comparison between the different kinds of apples that I talked about that you didn't get to see in the video because my video was only stuck on the page, which is what you see here. And then earlier this afternoon when I tried to do it again, so third time's a charm, literally. It's kind of funny how this all works out with the threes. But you have my video, you have my audio, and tonight we're going to do these 3 Apple products. Okay? Not Apple products, TM, but products that are Apple related. Okay, to be specific. So I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of music, type a couple things, and then the stream's going to go out. You're on camera. 50,306 individual cards. You want to pick up some assets that are easy to hold and easy to defend that are worth a lot of money. Grab some Magic the Gathering. If you want to talk about Magic the Gathering, play Magic the Gathering, let me know. That's the Lion's Eye Diamond. Pops huge. Currently, Lion's Eye Diamond can only get one light play. That's the best condition according to the app that I use of all the stores that sell them. $545 for a Lion's Eye Diamond right now. I picked mine up for $35 a piece, so you can do the math on that. About $2,200, right? So $550 heavily played. Mine are light played. Mine are good. The rest they're about $490 for a heavily played one. So $490 heavy play, $545 light play. Mine are light play. So I'm in mine $140 and they're worth $2,200. So that's a pretty good investment over about 3 years or so. My good friend in the Navy. He's a master at arms, and we were getting into legacy magic, which is expensive, and it was at the time, even more so now. But he had a deck that he was blinging out, which means he's getting the most expensive or coolest card in his perception of each of the cards in Magic. So in Magic, they make foil cards. Cards are reprinted in different sets, and the oldest ones or iterations of that card are the most valuable. That's why a Black Lotus sold for $500,000 just recently for one Magic card. It's the oldest, most powerful card in the game. Very few of them out there. That's why I really regret not buying 10 for $100,000 10 years ago. Okay, because I would have a lot of money right now if I did. All of us would. But there are a lot of cards to know about. 50,306. So we'll just talk about one every once in a while, and you can put it down on your ledger as an asset to look at and to follow and to see if it's something that you want to decide you want to get into. Because the thing about Magic cards is not only are they valuable because of what they represent, they're also finite in nature, certain of them. So like Bitcoin, there's a reserved list. A list of cards that will never be reprinted. So if you get one, the value's only going to go up, just like a Bitcoin. Now, all the other sets that they're printing right now, they may move cards to the reserved list. Who knows? Or they just don't get played, or they're banned, or whatever it is. But they're going to keep printing new sets, okay? Which means there's more Magic, which means those Magic cards that you just bought are going to be worth even more because they're printing more. There's more people playing. Okay, so kind of like Bitcoin, the more people that come, the more valuable each coin's going to become. And each of the older coins that you have are going to be worth more money. So that's why my Lion's Eye Diamonds today are worth quite a fair amount. So we'll go to the Legacy Dredge. Oh, sorry. We'll go to my want list. What are we doing? Come on, iPad. So on Legacy Dredge, we're looking at a price or a value for this deck. Now I sold this deck for a lot less than this, and then bought it back for the same price. And anyway, it's popped. It's about $2,900 now. I think I sold it for like $1,200 or something. Got it back for $1,200. But as you can see, the Lion's Eye Diamond there is $654 a piece, and looks like now, and it gives you the rest of the cards. So you can see, so the rest of the cards aren't really worth that much. So a 4-mana Confluence is $22 a piece, so that's like $88, right? So that's not bad. It's not bad. If you're getting into a Mana Confluence from a Journey into Nyx, which is a garbage value set, you can get some stuff out of it. Even garbage sets end up having things of value. You just don't know because the meta at the time, right? And so you want to play the meta because you want to win, but you want to be original and homebrew, but you don't really have to play the meta the more you know, because you know all the meta, right? I don't know all the meta, and that's why I don't play as well in Magic as I could, because I don't keep up with all the new sets. I don't I'm already invested and I already have what I have, and a lot of the cards I have are already some of the most powerful in the formats that I play them in. So, like the Lion's Eye Diamond and the Legacy, I play Dredge, right? And then I have a Niv Mizzet Commander deck that's really janky. And we can just go look at that. I'm into this deck less than $2,000. I've been making this deck for quite some time, but we'll just go off from that. Now, it looks like they're not pricing one of my cards again. That happens often when you have old cards. They just don't have prices available. So we'll go down and we'll see if we can get it to list a price again for my card. It looks like it's for a damaged one, $2,000, heavily played 22, moderately played 28, lightly played 3,000, near mint 3,300. So mine's lightly played. Most of my cards are light played. I don't really get into near mint because I do play my cards. It might sound kind of stupid, but I like playing my beta Wheel of Fortune, okay? And I bought it for $150 5 years ago, and it's worth $3,000, okay? And I play it. I doubles. You know, I got the perfect fit and all that, double sleeve in a deck, but you know, you can't enjoy it if you don't play it, and you can't enjoy your car if you don't drive it, okay? And you can make a proxy, but no one wants to drive a kit car Lamborghini, okay? And I don't want to play a kit car Wheel of Fortune, all right? And I'm not going to let you play a kit car and when we play Magic either, okay? This is how it is. And you wouldn't want to show up to a race in a kit car Lamborghini, unless why even make it a Lamborghini? If you have a car that's faster than a Lamborghini that you're trying to imitate, make your own car. Have someone put your own body and your own image and your own name on it, because you already built the rest of it. I mean, for Pete's sake, make it yours. Okay, that's what I think about clone cars. By the way, just and you know, unless we're talking like there's difference between resto mod clone and you know, putting a Chevy and replacing the worst engine in the world with a 350 is a good thing in my mind. But I digress. So anyway, it's not giving me a value. So 3,000. I'm into this deck less than $2,000, and it's worth 9,000 today. So when you take a look at its performance percentage-wise over time, Magic the Gathering outperforms gold by far, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. So when we think about different things, I don't know if you guys are into antiques. I'm into antiques and furniture as well. But antiques are some of the most expensive things you can buy. In fact, they pretty much are the most expensive things that you can buy. So I implore you to get into the antiques that you love, of the things that you like and the things that are cool to you, because those things that you like and love can also make you money. Because you like and love them, people are infected by the things that you like and love, especially if they see the value and the quality that you do, and share the same excitement. And that's what I'm bringing you here today. And what I'm hoping to do is help unify us a little bit so we can see how we are, how we have so much in common. Okay, so good afternoon. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Thank you for those who've been with me. Sorry if I haven't been on the chat. I've been talking, and then we'll see how much traction this video gets later on, and hopefully it's audio and video is good to go. So on that note, I'm going to send us off once again. Kind of get on tangents. I could do this all the time, like I said before. So paid to talk. That's what I did for a long time. You'll probably ask me to shut up at some point, which I'm planning on having people here, so we have more of a podcast interview discussion conversation, as opposed to me just talking to you and talking to you about crazy shit. Okay, recap. Music recap. In the beginning, in the XYZ space, you, the matter, you're the matter, solid, liquid, and gas. You eat the solid, you piss the liquid, and you fart the gas. Okay? That's what I do with my kids. And then beginning, past, present, and future. The Trinity of Trinities, the beginning of time, which Dr. Pi has unlocked for us all. God bless his heart. Thank you to him so much. And thank you to the U.S. Department of Navy and all of our armed forces, amongst the Marine Corps, National Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, Air Force, Space Force above and Space Force below. I think that's something to address. We have the Cyber Space Force and the Outer Space Force, I'm imagining. So anyway, time will tell. We'll see you later.